They're just so cute.
Okay, and we are. Okay, fantastic. Okay, let me get my screen back up here. All right, my friends and gems, thanks for joining here today. We are doing this Zoom call and live broadcast on YouTube. We basically have this stem cell activation patches, as you know. Just a tiny little patch here. It's 3 centimeters wide, about the size of a little quarter, American quarter. So we're going to be talking about tonight the Fantastic Five. So we're going to be talking about the mother, the daughter, and the 3 master antioxidants of the body. That's glutathione, carnosine, and eon. So let's get started. But before we do that, of course, this is our Fantastic Five trio. And here we go. We're going to be talking about the mother stem cell activation patch. But before we do that, let me go ahead and share our disclaimers because we got to play nice and we got to follow the rules. The patches are not intended to treat, prevent, or cure any disease. We do not heal, cure, treat, or diagnose, nor do we offer protocols. The suggestions do not replace the diagnosis and treatment by a qualified licensed healthcare professional. We strongly recommend you consult with your doctor concerning your specific health challenge and treatment needed. There are no medical claims that are being made with the suggestions here. Okay, and without further ado, I want to thank Brandon and Carol for being on here live tonight. How are my friends and gems doing? Oh, and we've got one other person there too with Carol. Who is that, Carol, that is with you?
That's Tara.
Tara, nice to see you. All right, my beautiful friends and gems, very exciting. Okay, so let me share this little disclaimer. Of course, we get inspected every 2 years because our patches are made in FDA registered facilities. So the US Food and Drug Administration has taken this little position that is a little bit of a change just as of the fall of this year, August of 2023. And it's surrounding claims surrounding stem cells. So, and healing, even those from natural products, which will be regarded as drug claims. Can you imagine that? So the FDA also asserts that claiming that the use of light to elevate peptides such as GHKCU is inappropriate for a general wellness product. As a result, they told us that until December 31st, we couldn't say that anymore, even though we have 90 clinical studies that show that that were done in the United States, Europe, as well as Asia, not to mention over 120 trademarks that are global patents in 82 countries. However, apparently as of the first of this year, we're fine again, but until I'm absolutely sure that all the FDA agents have got the memo, I will, as a precaution, I'm still giving that disclaimer. All right, moving on. How is this technology possible? So in 1973, Dr. Lauren Picard discovered that GHKCU copper peptide activated a third of previously dormant stem cells to a younger, healthier state. So that makes you beg the question, what are stem cells? Well, stem cells are pluripotent cells. Pluripotent, that's all that means is that pluri means plural, potent potentials. So there's many potentials. So your master smart cells, when you were first conceived, have 100% of the blueprint to form you in your mother's womb and take you all the way to the end till you take the last breath. So every bit of information is in there to make a heart cell, a stomach cell, a fat, a red blood cell, bone cell, nerves, etc. And if you look at your human body, and when your mother's ovum united with your father's sperm at conception, you now had complete information to the tune of almost 24,000 cells, 24,000, or better yet, 23,688 genes and stem cells that immediately began to form you into an embryo in your mother's womb. Now, fast forward your timeline to 30 years of age. And when you're 30 years of age, believe it or not, 50% of your stem cells turn off. Not because they're damaged, destroyed, or they disappear. They simply just go dormant. And if you continue to move decade after decade from 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 years of age, now you have 50, 60, 70, 80. At 60 years old, that would be this 60 years of age, 90% of your stem cells turn off. Again, not because they're damaged, disappeared, or destroyed. They simply go dormant until you apply a stem cell activation patch, and then you turn back on 33% of your previously dormant stem cells. So if you look at your human body, it's very much like a house. It's like your home. And if you look inside of your body, your stem cells are like printer ink cartridges. And when you have brand new ink cartridges, just like a newborn baby that has 100% of their stem cells, when you make a copy, the copy is indistinguishable from the original. Now, fast forward the timeline to 30 years of age, and you have 50% that have turned off, continue going to 60, and by the time you are 60 years of age, now you have only 10% of those original stem cells that have to shoulder the burden that used to be the work of 100%, right? And so if you look inside the human body, and now let's come to the point of where we talk about how do the patches actually work. So you're going to see that this is what this stem cell activation patch actually looks like. And if you were going to remove the backing, because on the back, all it does is it has the name of the mother stem cell activation patch. And you can see that this patch here has a little crystal lattice on one side. And the thing to note about this is that your body, if you touch your face, you touch your neck, you're going to notice that you're warm. And that's evidence of the infrared light that's inside of your body. So inside of our bodies, every single molecule has electrons. Every single cell has electrons. Inside your blood, you have electrolytes. Electrons, electrolytes, those are packets of electricity. That's why we have infrared light inside of our body. We are literally light beings, not just from a spiritual, metaphysical standpoint, but science is the contemporary language of mysticism. Science is only 300 years old. The mystics, the ancients have known for 4,000 or 5,000 years that we are light beings. But we've been able to prove this. And in fact, here we have a spectrograph that is a scanner that shows the electricity inside the hand. I, in fact, have a BioWell machine here where I can scan all of your fingers and it'll tell me the joules of energy for not only every organ of the body, but every organ system of the body. And that infrared light is what's going to bounce off of this little mechanical device, and it's going to activate that GHKCU copper peptide that Lauren Picard discovered back in 1973, and that's going to activate the P63 protein, which begins this rapid regeneration and repair inside your body. So I want you to just make believe that I've got a flashlight in my hand and that I'm going to shine it on this diamond crystal. And if I were to do that, you would see that the light source from the flashlight is going to bounce off of the diamond crystal. And of course, it reflects back all the different colors of the prism back to your eyes, right? Same thing is happening with this FDA compliant class 1 medical device, because you see the adhesive that's around here in the middle. You're going to notice that in the middle, you have a white circle, right? That little white circle are many tiny little crystals. They're organic crystals of sugar. They're organic sugar, organic salt crystals, organic hydrogen, oxygen, and water crystals, and a proprietary blend of organic amino acids. That's what this crystal lattice is. You'd have to look at it under a microscope to see the individual crystals, because they're tiny, 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 tiny organic nanotechnology that use photobiomodulation applied on traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points to actually magnify the effect of the patches on the body. And so while phototherapy actually has been defined as the use of ultraviolet light for its healing effects, these patches have been specifically developed to reflect light in the infrared and visible light bands back onto the skin where the patches have been placed. So supported by normal electrodermal skin conductance, the human body will give off a number of materials biochemically, including particulate release, gas emission, ultraviolet, infrared, near infrared, and visible spectrums of light. This then stimulates that area of the skin, producing improved physiological effects. Now, variations of phototherapy have been used for at least 100 years. In fact, we're all aware that the Egyptians, the Incas, the Mayas, the Taoists, the Shaolin monks have used photobiomodulation for thousands of years, but it's only been in the last approximately 100 years that we have documented cases of photobiomodulation. In fact, the very first documented use of photobiomodulation, what a giant word, huh? So photo means light, bio, we're biological beings. Modulation simply means movement and change. So that was back in 1895. As we sit here, it's 2024. So that was clearly over 100 years ago. And in 1903, Niels Ryberg-Finsen won the Nobel Prize for his research on using red light to treat tuberculosis of the skin. And in his experiments with mice, Finsen found that exposing them to red light reduced both their symptoms and their mortality rate from lupus vulgaris. Pretty groundbreaking if you think about it. Wow, photobiomodulation, this was at the turn of the century, and now we're in 2024. And people are just now starting to get the hang of actually using photobiomodulation. But really, for the last 30, 40 years in a hospital setting, photobiomodulation, we've used bilirubin lights in, neonatal NICUs, neonatal intensive care units for premature babies that were born with immature livers, prior to having bilirubin lights, which are the type of lights that you have to put a baby who is born with an immature liver, and they get something called jaundice, which is they get yellow pigment in their skin as well as yellowing of their eyes. Before the bilirubin lights existed, in the old days, they used to take babies, I'm told, and they would simply put them on the east-facing wall of the hospital. They would open the windows, and the babies would just simply be naked. They would just cover their little eyes, and then they would put them in the morning sun from sunrise until noon, and they would flip them over every 30 minutes. So that is using photobiomodulation. It's using the infrared light spectrum of the sun, because the sun is 42% infrared light, just like we are infrared light beings. It's all by design. So these, I want you to notice that these are non-transdermal. This little patch, it's like a med bed in a patch. It's non-transdermal. That just means that nothing transfers into the dermis, which is the skin. They're non-invasive. So these crystals, although they're organic, you've got organic sugar crystals, organic salt crystals, organic hydrogen, oxygen, water, crystals, as well as a proprietary blend of organic amino acids, those are not absorbed by your skin. They're simply the mechanical structure to reflect back the light, the infrared light in your body, up to 4 inches deep, all the way down into the bone, quite literally. They're organic, holistic, FDA compliant Class 1 medical devices. You're the battery that operates this device. Your body's the one that's doing all the work. This is simply acting like a mirror, just like the diamond crystal that I showed you a few minutes ago. And these are under the general wellness category. We manufacture our products at FDA registered facilities in the US, and our facility in Ireland is registered with the Irish Medicine Board, and we manufacture our products to the same standards as a medical device. And in fact, our facility in Ireland is ISO 9001 and ISO 13485 compliant. That's a quality standard. Now, it's super important that you drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water every day. Now, babies, they come out of that juicy womb because they were swimming in the amniotic sac in their mother's womb. They come out and they're about 82% composition is water. And the average American is about 65% water. The average 60-year-old is about 55% water. Yet, your DNA is 92% water. Your brain is 75% or more water. And so it's super important that you keep hydrated, because when you're feeling 2% dehydrated just in your mouth, that's 2% dehydration. That's why you're feeling dehydrated in the mouth. Your DNA is still 92% water. Water is the primary structure that holds up that DNA. When you get to, wait till you see what happens at 8% dehydration. I'm going to show you the DNA strand of someone who is properly hydrated and someone who is not. This is a properly hydrated individual. Their DNA strand, it's a beautiful helix structure and it's in the proper formation, and the water is able to hold up that structure because it's properly hydrated. However, when you reach 8% dehydration, your DNA unravels. That's right. The DNA unravels, it starts to fall apart. The telomeres, which are the little boots at the end of your DNA, the myelin sheath, which is kind of like a little fatty tissue that's surrounding the ends like of socks on your telomeres, that starts to disintegrate, and then the telomere length starts to break off the end of the DNA strands. And that begins the shortening of your lifespan as that DNA starts to unravel. The other thing is many things in the body shrink when you are dehydrated. First thing that shrinks is your brain, like I said, because your brain is hydrophilic. It's water loving, and it's mostly water. It's like 75 to some say it's up to 95% water. So at 10% dehydration, guess what happens? You lose your mind. At 12% dehydration, hard shutdown, whole body shuts down, you're dead. Nobody can survive because everything inside your body is like cement then, and everything has fallen apart. So it's not survivable at 12% dehydration. The other thing to notice is that your proteins, they actually fold in half when you are dehydrated. So they cannot work properly because you haven't properly hydrated your body. There's something inside the body called the Krebs cycle, and that's not so important. What is important that you become aware that as soon as you're starting to become thirsty, don't confuse that with hunger. Thirst is thirst. If you're feeling a little thirsty, make sure you drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water from the time you wake up until you go to sleep. If you're about 150 pounds, as an example, 50-pound person, you're going to divide that by 2. That's 75 ounces of water. That's the equivalent of, let's say, 5 Sparklets, Arrowhead, Pana, Aquafina, pick whatever it is that your favorite brand is, 16 ounces per bottle. And that would be about 5 water bottles a day, or 2.2 liters of water on a daily basis. Okay, moving on here. So I want you to be aware that you're going to be wearing the patches 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So you're going to put them on first thing in the morning. Let's say 9 o'clock in the morning, you put your patches on, and then you're going to wear them for 12 hours. 12 hours later, your alarm's going to go off going, remove patches. You're going to go, oh, that's right, I got to take my patches. Take your patches off, discard them, and you're going to match the 12 hours that you signaled your body with 12 hours of rest, repair, and restore cycle, because you are now going from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic system. Your parasympathetic system is just like the daytime. You have daytime, and then you have nighttime. Your rest and digest system is in hand with your parasympathetic system, and it's equally as important. A lot of repair, different type of repair goes on during the parasympathetic cycle of the body. You may not sleep 12 hours. That's fine. That part doesn't matter so much. But whether you sleep 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, the thing is you are on the circadian rhythm of not only your wake and sleep cycle, but every organ system of the body has circadian rhythms, and they're Bluetoothed quite literally to the cycles and the circadian rhythms of the planet that are tuned in also with the sun. Oh, by the way, it's good to know that when you're just barely 25 years of age, did you know that your fibroblasts begin to decline in their production of collagen? That's like incredible if you think about it. It's like 25 years old. You're barely used to being in an adult's body, right? And already your fibroblasts are starting, I almost said fibrinogen. That's something totally different. But your fibroblasts, hey, you see, you don't have to be perfect to do this. But your fibroblasts begin to decline in their production of collagen. Collagen is the #1 building block protein of the body. So if you think about it, no wonder by the time you're 30, 50% of those stem cells have already gone to sleep. They've already gone dormant until you apply a stem cell activation patch. So let me show you this gal here. This gal had scoliosis after just 1 month of wearing the mother stem cell activation patch and Ice Wave, which is the only patch we have that doesn't repair anything. It just turns off your pain receptors. It's more powerful than hospital grade morphine, and it does have a therapeutic effect. And you can clearly see that her scoliosis or her curvature of her spine was so pronounced that her scapulas were raised, her shoulder blades. You can also see that the left shoulder is significantly higher than the right shoulder. Her waist, you can see a nice hourglass figure on the right, but not so much on the left because she's slanted to the left. 1 month later, you can see how her shoulders are pretty much even now. Curvature is much less. She also had a pronounced, like 50 to 100% reduction in pain in that first month that she was on the patches. Pretty impressive. Here we have a gentleman who has a condition where he's having some sort of irregularity with his melanin production, because melanin is what gives our skin color. It's what gives our hair color, what gives us eye color. And so you could see that he has some spots where the melanin is missing in different parts of his face. So over the course of the next year, he started looking like this, as you can clearly see here. And a year later, you can see how much more, first of all, his skin is even, and he clearly looks much more rejuvenated. The fine lines that he had, or not so fine lines on his forehead, are definitely, you can still see some lines, but they're less pronounced than what they were prior to him being on the patches. Here we have my friend Kathy. She lives in Nevada. She is a professional skydiver. I have several friends who are professional skydivers. And Kathy, her big thing was that for 33 years, she suffered with autoimmune disorder from 3 breast implants that she had. And for 33 years, she went from doctor to doctor looking to get relief from, all the symptoms that were plaguing her from that autoimmune disorder. Caused her a lot of grief, a lot of pain, a lot of wasted time, having to spend time, money, and energy to repair her health. And she's a very active person. And so when we started her on the patches, we told her, make sure you apply the patches, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. She was already drinking a ton of water because she spends quite a bit of time in the sun. So that was not a big deal, not much of a change there for her. But we told her also take a picture now and every 30 days after, because you want to be able to chart your progress. And luckily she did that. But when we showed her the patches, she's like, what? That little thing? That's like a little Band-Aid. It's like a little sticker. I don't think that's going to be able to do what 33 years of all these doctors and experts, no one has been able to provide me with any kind of significant results, relief, even slowing down of symptoms. So, but she humored us and she was willing to get on the patches. And she said, I'll give it a year, but she's like, okay, I got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So she started. And what's exciting is that in October of 2022, she posted this picture on her Facebook profile. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I immediately reached out to her. We got on a Zoom call like this. And I said, hey, Kathy, my gosh, those pictures are awesome. That's so dramatic. I'm like, I'm sharing this on my Facebook profile page. And I know that my friends know that I wouldn't put something that's not true on there. So they're going to know that it's legit, but they're going to share it with their friends. And those friends are going to share it with other friends. If I were a friend of a friend, I'd go, oh, that's a photoshopped picture. There's no way that could be true. So I'm like, that's like, you just ignore it. I go, so would you come on a Zoom just like this phone call that we're having now so that I can share that on my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. And people will see that your face and your neck actually match the picture. And then would you give me a profile shot? And she said, absolutely, I'll give you, that's no problem. Yeah, let's do that. But I will not give you a profile shot. I don't take pictures of my face. I don't put my profile picture on any of my social media. So absolutely no to that. But yeah, sure. I told her I wanted to share your entire story, soup to nuts. And she said, I'd love to. So that was fine. Soon as we posted the video, I sent her the link and then she changed her mind. And so she gave us the picture. But when you look at this picture, we can say, oh, she probably has filters on that and so forth. But when you watch the video, you're going to notice that this picture matches her on the video. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, she looks exactly like that. And her neck and her chest have no wrinkles. But what's best about this story is not that. Although this is what everybody sees, because this is just evidence of oxidative stress. That's what fine lines, wrinkles, age spots, freckles, all that is oxidative stress. What's most exciting was that in the first 90 days, most of her autoimmune disorder symptoms all vanished. And she just kept on getting more energy, having more clarity, more mental focus, better brain processing speed. Everything just kept on getting better and better and better. So it's really quite exciting. Does that make sense? Okay, here, this is my story. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I don't like to spend too much time because I've had so many podcasters and so many YouTube channels, wellness superheroes. They've had me on several times, and I have my whole story is on there. Last week, I also did a brief 30-minute where I kind of went into the more inner workings, what was going through my head and my emotions when I got hit by a bus just 3 blocks shy of finishing a 16-mile bike ride in 2017. And you're talking to somebody who, as soon as the bus hit me, it hit me both the back of my head, my bottom left, and my lower back at the same time. I went flying. I suffered brain damage. I had a traumatic brain injury. I suffered a neck injury, a lower back injury, and a terrible laceration that was from my ankle to my knee. It's kind of bizarre thing, kind of weird, because I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and I never got a chance to complete my left look. Next thing I knew, I was flying and I was looking at my feet going, oh no, it's like my feet can't get crushed. Sorry about that, child abduction alert on my phone. I haven't had one of those in a long time. Anyhow, I guess this is signaling to those of you who are watching this and listening right now, pay close attention. What ended up happening was, of course, I had a tremendous amount of pain, of course, spent some time in the hospital, had no short-term memory for almost 2 years. Some of the neurosomatic methods that I used to repattern the brain, I had to do on myself. A lot of irony here, because I went from being the mother of a child who almost died of a neurological condition to then being a practitioner who was repatterning people's bodies and brains to heal from physical and emotional trauma, to then becoming the patient. Never in a million years did I ever think I would become a neurological patient. But that's what the divine order had orchestrated in my path, and that's why I'm here right now. And long story short, I went from no short-term memory to by the time I got started on the patches, I had already recovered a great deal of my memory, but it still took quite a bit of effort for me to memorize and to recall and to recite things. 1 month on the patches, and my memory was better, not only as good as it was when I was pre-med at SC, it was better than it ever had been in my entire life. In fact, if I close my eyes right now, when I do these memory games where I pull up numbers and I'm like, okay, how many numbers, like 11 digits to the right of the decimal, can I memorize? I just look at it once, write it down, turn the card over and see if I can recite it. So for example, I looked up pi, and pi is 3.1415926535.9. If you want to jot that down, look it up, you'll see that. And I just had to look that up once. And I have a lot of things like that. Like I can remember Carol's start date was Tuesday, August 8th. Carolyn Chu is on here, and her start date was August 30th. Now, do I need to remember those things? No, but it's so nice that it's effortless. I don't have to try. I don't have to write it down. I don't have to memorize it. It's lock, stock, and barreled in my head. So the good news is that after 14 months of being on this patches, I had all these neurological conditions, all those symptoms went away. They vanished took 14 months, but I'm here right now, and I would not trade it for anything in the world. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this life-saving technology, because it was a game changer for me, and it's done such incredible things to other people that I can't even begin to tell you all the stories after stories after stories. Although if you watch my YouTube channel, you will hear quite a few of them because I get them every day. So here we have Gail Henry. She had a severe curvature of the spine. She was in a lot of pain when she started on the patches. And you can tell how pronounced her curvature is. It goes really over to the right and then it comes back. She has a fold of flesh here on the left because her curvature is so pronounced. You see here less than 2 months on the patches. And not only is the curve, she still has a curvature of the spine. You can clearly see that it kind of, curves down this way, but it's lessened where her pain was gone and the fold of flesh is gone. So that's a dramatic improvement in just 2 months. And if you know anything about the human body, bones Bones and nerves are the things that take the longest to regenerate. The easiest to regenerate is the skin, but when it comes to nerves and bones, like your entire body, you have 56 trillion cells in the body, and normally 2 billion cells, without you being on the patches, 2 billion cells turn over every single day. Of those 56 trillion cells, the oldest cells in your body are 7 years old. The youngest cells in your body, or the newest, are milliseconds old. And for you to generate bone, for all of the cells in your bones to turn over, and for you to grow bone, takes 2 years. And to see this type of transformation, because it's not just the bone, it's also the cartilage, the tendons, the ligaments, the spinal cord, all of that is involved in this regeneration, right? So it's pretty dramatic. And it's exciting to see that she got out of pain in the first 30 days of being on the patches. All right, so this is the mother stem cell activation patch. We're going to share with you the bullet points rather than these long, arduous, complicated paragraphs that would be impossible for anybody to remember. And you don't need to remember this either, because you can always pull these up on the YouTube channel. I can always text you the bullet points so that you can see them on your text messages on your phone if you text. But this is the mother cell activation patch. This resets a third of your genes to a younger, healthier state by activating GHKCU copper peptide. It regenerates your cells, replacing damaged cells with new ones. It restores collagen. It rebuilds scar tissue, replacing it with the original tissue. That's why in the first month of my being on the patches, much to my surprise, my scar that was elevated and raised and kind of thick and purplish in color, it went flat right away. And then in the first 4 months, the bone that had healed kind of wiggly because my laceration was right on that shin bone, I was really surprised that the bone just went smooth. It got filled in and that scar was flattened. And then it went from that purplish, ugly color to brown. And then it went to tan and lighter tan, and it kept on shrinking this way. And before I knew it, there were like dashes instead of a continuous scar. It was just really quite amazing to see how quickly that really started to disappear. This will also reduce fine lines and wrinkles, as you saw with my friend Kathy McCarthy. It'll increase your energy, increase sexual libido, increase antioxidants, increase anti-aging, increase anti-inflammation. Pain relief, if you have pain, many people experience within 3 to 4 minutes of applying this patch, 50 to 100% pain relief. For every person that I've experienced where I've actually put this mother cell activation patch, let's say people who I come in contact with, it's inevitable you'll be in public someplace, or you'll go to a conference, you're in the post office, waiting to buy stamps or to ship something out. And inevitably somebody's like, oh my gosh, I got a splitting migraine. It's like, huh. Or I'm like, oh, I have a terrible headache. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, you're just in luck. I happen to be a stem cell activation specialist. These are organic and holistic. They're non-transdermal. Nothing gets absorbed by your body. It's just a mechanical device. Would you like these turn off? I can reduce your pain anywhere from 50 to 100% by just applying this patch. Is it okay if I apply this on you? And they're like, yes, almost 9. I've yet to have somebody say no. And we put the patch, this one, I'll put it on their neck bump. And then I'll take the ice wave patch. It's a 2-patch system. I'll put the tan one on the left temple, the white one on the right temple. And every single time, within 30 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes, they always respond the same way too. They're always like looking like, where did this headache go? Can this work this fast? And they're all like very surprised. They're like, wow, what are in those magic patches? It's like, this actually works. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, can it work that fast? I go, yeah, they're designed to, it's your own body is doing the reparation because you have 33% more stem cells that are repairing whatever damage there is. And you're turning off the pain receptors with the ice wave patches. It's really quite extraordinary. And again, when I ask people, what's your pain level? They're like, well, right now, this migraine's about a 7 or an 8. And then 2 to 3 minutes later or 30 seconds later, they'll say, it's maybe like a 3, maybe a 4. I'm like, wow, that's a significant change. Or or it's gone. It's like you, as soon as you put the ice wave patches on, they're like, it was like an on-off switch. It's like, boom, instantly gone. I'm like, Yeah, it can happen. I mean, you're feeling it, right? It's pretty extraordinary. Improved hair growth. I had improved hair growth. I had a bald spot for 5 years. From the time I got hit about, I want to say 2, 3 months later, of course, the hair starts falling out. I lost 50% of my hair, became dry, coarse, and brittle. And then my point of impact was the bottom left. So I had a bald spot the size of my palm. We're talking not one hair follicle. I had my regenerative medicine doctor had sent me to a compound pharmacy with organic, all sorts of, lotions and potions, if you will, to apply back there so that I could regrow that, and nothing worked until I got on these patches. So the other thing is everyone gets deeper, sounder sleep because the patches put you in a deep REM state of sleep, which goes hand in hand with activating your GHKCU copper peptide. We apply these patches. We have a recommendation of applying these patches on traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points to magnify, of course, the effects of these patches on the body. Again, I can't emphasize enough, drink 50% your weight. I mean, you don't have to do anything you don't want to, but we've, in the health and wellness space, and Olympic athletes, peak performance athletes, anyone who's played football in high school or any athletics, it could be tennis, it could be, you name it, baseball, basketball, everybody knows you need to drink plenty of 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water in order to, because you're sweating a lot when you're doing all that activity. But just as a general wellness principle, treat your body well. You're going to want to drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water. You don't want those proteins to fold. They fold, you start to have symptoms and have dysregulation, and you have all sorts of problems. That's the beginning of disease and illness in the body. So we're going to go on to talk about our next patch. And you know what? I'm just realizing I have the wrong presentation up. So again, evidence that I'm not perfect. So I'm going to close this down for just a quick second. Give me a second, because I just realized I need to close this one down and I need to open the other one. All righty. So now here we are. We already talked about that, and we are going to go to, yes, the daughter. Whoops, now I got to bring you guys back on. I need to share my screen here so you can see. There we go. Okay, if you can't laugh at your own mistakes, then you're too uptight. You're not going to live long. Can't sweat the small stuff. Okay, daughter stem cell activation patch. So we talked about this one. And now, whoops, see, another mistake. I dropped a sleeve. That brings me to, what is a sleeve? A sleeve is just an envelope. It's a specially designed envelope to hold your 30 patches. So each one of these has 30 patches in them. So the next one we're talking about is the daughter stem cell activation patch. This does something completely different than the mother. This patch protects you against radiation poisoning relief. It increases your lean muscle mass, increases bone density, muscle mass, and strength, increases your energy, increases your focus and your cardiovascular system. It protects you from EMFs, 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi radiation. It reduces your belly fat, because what it does is, instead of using, typically the way your body works is whatever your last meal was, it will use the glucose from that last meal to fuel your body. Whatever you don't use, it stores it in your fat as a future reserve. This patch will use your belly fat first as an immediate source of energy, because now you have 33% additional stem cells that are being activated to repair, restore, and regenerate your body. It's a lot of energy running through your body. So it uses that immediate belly fat. Now, some people are worried, wait a minute, I've got a perfect weight, I can't afford to lose weight, or I'm underweight, I'm trying to gain weight, not lose weight. Your smart cells are smart enough to know if your body is underweight. It's the same problem in reverse. If you're underweight or if you're overweight, there's a disbalance. Something is not in balance in your body that is causing you to be either overweight or underweight. My friend Carol here and I, when we first started on the patches, we were underweight. We couldn't afford to lose any weight. And in fact, even though you try very hard, just like people try very difficult to lose weight and you feel like you can't seem to drop a pound or two, well, it's equally frustrating when you've lost, like in my case, I lost almost 10 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. And I'm increasing my protein intake. I never used to do protein shakes or things like that. Just now I'm not only buying Orgain and taking 2 scoops of protein, I'm also eating a tablespoon of peanut butter. I'm adding protein everywhere I can. I'm doing all sorts of extra things to gain weight. And I remember my first month, I didn't gain 1 pound. So frustrating. I can relate to people who have the opposite problem. It's a sign of something being out of balance. But when you have a traumatic brain injury, and a lot of people are running around with TBIs, they have no idea that they have multiple traumatic brain injuries, multiple concussive events, basically, many concussions over the course of their lifetime. Until all the symptoms disappear when you're on the patches, you're like, oh my gosh. But when your CPU gets offline because of the damage, then things don't quite work right because not all the connections are being made that need to be made. And so in this case, this patch, if you're a little overweight or if you have a little belly fat, it's going to use that belly fat. If you're good in that department, guess what? Your smart cells, because that's what pluripotent stem cells are. They're your master smart cells, okay? If you have osteoporosis, mind you, let no one fool you into believing that osteoporosis is a disease or that it's a malady. No, all mammals as we age, every single one. So it's not just human beings, but our little quadruped friends like cats, dogs, horses, all mammals. As we age, our bones get more porous. Osteoporosis is a state of being. It's a condition. Osteo means bone, porous. Porosis means porous. So it's just describing that your bones are porous, and that happens to all mammals. But with this patch, your bones get more dense. And I got a great story. My mom last August, unfortunately, you know that most people who are 70, 80 years old, if they fall down from their own feet, let alone if they fall downstairs, usually that means multiple bones fractured, right? That means that, okay, and then oftentimes they don't last much longer after that. Sometimes they need a hip replacement or, my mother-in-law, just around the holidays, unfortunately, she was just walking in front of her house on the sidewalk, tripped on her own feet and broke her wrist. And then she had to have surgery to put pins in her wrist. But my mom, she's lived in this house for like 37 years, and she was going down the stairs that she's been walking down for 37 years. She has a tri-level home. And on the main level, you go down these wooden stairs and then you get to a tile floor. Well, somehow she twisted her right ankle and she missed the last 3 steps, and boom, she landed on her left shin on the tile floor. Well, my mom's north of 80. You would think that she would have broken at least 1 bone or more. Not a single, not even a tiny hairline fracture. But she'd been on the patches for 10 months. And she had been diagnosed with osteoporosis 5 years before. But thanks to the patches, in no short order, she didn't suffer a fracture. She suffered a massive contusion. And of course, she had that sprained ankle and she had some swelling. But who knows what would have happened had she not been on the patches. So I'm really grateful that, knock on wood, and she's fine now. Okay, so the next 3 patches, and then we're going to open this up for any questions that you might have. We're going to go over the next 3 are master antioxidants, and this is glutathione, carnosine, and then eon. Master antioxidants, super important. Oh, by the way, remember to drink 50% your water every day. So glutathione, this master antioxidant is a powerhouse. In the scientific and in the medical community, 50% of the scientists and medical practitioners say that glutathione is the powerhouse, and the other half are going to say that melatonin is, because melatonin absorbs all heavy metals and detoxes it from your body. But guess what? Glutathione is equally powerful, and it's tied to your immune system. Glutathione is the master antioxidant that detoxifies the body, from everything, including detoxing you from any germs, viruses, bacteria. It increases your immune system when you have proper levels of glutathione. When you wear this patch, the glutathione patch, within, let's say you start the patches today as an example. You started wearing it at 9 a.m. in the morning, and then tonight at 9 p.m., you're removing your patches. By tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., based on your original settings from your original blueprint, your stem cells are going to go, oh, wait a minute. His original settings are like, we need to boost his glutathione levels 555%. Within 24 hours, by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., your glutathione levels will be up 555% because that's what your original playbook says. It's unique to you. For somebody else, it might be 300%. For this person over here, maybe 600%. It's all based on your original playbook. This increases your antivirals. Your body, when it comes to detoxing your body, your immune system and detoxification process, they're inextricably interlinked with each other. Because when your stem cells and when your kidneys, when your liver is detoxing you, it doesn't care if that toxin is man-made or if it's a germ, a virus, or a bacteria, or if it's some sort of parasitic infestation that you have by whatever means you got it, because everyone has parasites, some of them detectable, some of them not so much, because a lot of them are not in the intestines. They're oftentimes found inside cells. They're intracellular parasites that wreak havoc with your body. That is a topic of another discussion that we will have at another point in time. But guess what? This unrings the bell of that damage and will purge you from germs, viruses, bacteria, and any toxin by whatever means you have received it. Glutathione is a radioprotector against DNA damage. So glutathione, to the degree that you have good levels of glutathione, your DNA is going to be protected. It's going to improve your skin appearance. It's going to help promote relaxation and reduce stress. Really important for eye health and also important for your nociceptive system. There are 8 neurosomatic systems of the body, and your ability to have pain receptors or sensing receptors that have to do with your nervous system. Like people who have neuralgia, they've got like pins and needles where they feel like there's 1,000 needles in their hands and their feet, or the opposite. They might feel numbness. That's because they usually have low or no glutathione. As soon as you put them on the glutathione patch, you restore their original glutathione levels. Guess what? Those symptoms start to disappear. So glutathione, super important. I want you to pay closest attention if you have an issue with any of the organs that are being mentioned here, because this is straight out of a research paper. And I want to share here that this research paper says that the glutathione patch is worn for 12 hours daily over a period of just 4 weeks, produced a highly significant improvement in physiologic functional status of your pancreas, liver, gallbladder, intestines, left and right adrenals, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland, and a very significant improvement in the pancreas with a statistical power of at least 72%. So stated differently, all organs achieved significant cellular physiological functional status improvement compared to a baseline of at least 91%. And so for my fellow neuro nerds that are hearing, seeing, experiencing, feeling this right now, I just want you to know that I literally took this out of the nanoscale. Glutathione patches improve organ function. That's the name of the research paper. At the end, I will show you the website link that you can read it. In fact, all 90 clinical studies are posted there for your pleasure and for your due diligence for those of you who want to read those. All right, the next patch, I love the carnosine patch. I would like to be playful about carnosine because the root word to carnosine, incidentally, these 3 master antioxidants, these are named after the antioxidant itself. So glutathione is actually present in your body, as is carnosine, etc., and as is eon. So the next one, carnosine. The root word for carnosine is carne, which is flesh in Latin. So it's an easy way for you to remember flesh, muscles, right? Muscles. Your heart is the biggest, strong, one of the strongest muscles of your body. That's your pump. So it has to do with supporting and improving your cardiovascular system and all things related to your heart and muscles. as long as you have a good heart, a good pump, where the electrical as well as the muscle, and there's no backage, nothing clogging up the arteries, the veins, and so forth, then you're going to have good brain function. But if you have a compromise in your cardiovascular system, it's going to create brain fog, memory, focus, is going to be compromised. So this supports all of that. It's going to improve your healthy brain function, memory, focus, and brain processing time. It's also going to increase your strength and stamina because it has to do with muscles, right? And this detoxes you from aluminum in the brain. Some of you are thinking, I really don't need that because I don't have aluminum in my body. Oh yeah? Well, if you have fillings that are silver in your mouth and you have any kind of dental work with crowns and things like that, you probably have some aluminum. But how many of us grew up in the States, use toothpaste out of an aluminum tube? Now you take that toothpaste, it's been, into the toothpaste has been absorbing traces of aluminum, and now you brush your teeth. You don't swallow the toothpaste, but it's sitting right on your gums, and it's being absorbed straight into your brain. How many of us have actually eaten a pie that was baked in a tin that was made of aluminum? How many of you have had baked potatoes or baked turkey or baked ham or baked chicken or baked beef or baked corn on the cob that was wrapped in aluminum? How many of us have had some sort of beverage, beer, juice, water, any kind of beverage that was soda, Pepsi, Coke, 7-Up, Sprite, Crush, Fanta, in an aluminum can? Most of us, right? So guess what? All those contents are absorbing trace amounts of aluminum. And we've known for 25 years that aluminum causes cognitive decline. It causes a decline in brain function and memory, focus, and brain processing speed. We've known that for a long time. We've had a big uptick in the amount of dementia in our country because a lot of things are put into aluminum containers, because at the turn of the century, we didn't know this. But for the last 25, 30 years, we do know that. And back in 2014, in fact, the maker of Tom's toothpaste, because of the clamoring of their customers who kept on saying, how could you be putting organic toothpaste in an aluminum container when we know that this is it's a neurotoxin? And then Tom's toothpaste was the first one who said, okay, we got to put it into a recyclable plastic container instead. Then all the other tooth makers followed suit. So we inadvertently, I'm not even talking about people who work in places like a Home Depot or a car manufacturer or a gun manufacturer, or there are different types of businesses where there's aluminum shavings, manufacturers of aluminum awnings. The list goes on and on and on and on. There's different ways that you can get aluminum into your body. So the bottom line is we can unring the bell of that damage, and that gets eliminated because you are going to detox from these things through urination, perspiration, and defecation. Sweat, pee, and poop it out, basically. All right. This is going to also help. This patch helps you with wound restoration as well. Yep, another reminder, the third time, remember to drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water. So the next patch, now, so you can start to see how this helps improve your memory and all sorts of other different things. So this Eon patch, we actually call this the happy patch. I really like to call all the patches happy patches, because when you get your health back and you start to repair your body and restore it to a younger and healthier state, and your symptoms all start to disappear and you feel energized, you've got great energy, you're not jittery, you have clear focus, mental clarity, you have effortless recall, that's a winning game. This patch, we actually have nicknamed it the happy patch. This happens to be the master anti-inflammatory patch. It regulates inflammation in the body. We call it the anti-stress patch as well, because this patch, it balances. Most people have their brains are out of balance when they start on these patches. When they get on these patches and they go from being out of balance, and in a 4 to 6 week, 12-week period, their brains start to get in balance. Some people in the first 24 hours, I've had people who said, wow, I got on the patches for this reason. And in the first 24 hours, the next day, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I had brain fog. Everything is so much brighter, clearer. I notice that I can focus more. I have greater energy, but I don't have jitters. They're like, whoa. And then other people knew they had brain fog. And they're like, it's like the veil, like the fog lifted. And I could just think and see so much clearer. I'm remembering things that I haven't remembered from when I was in junior high or that I haven't thought about since I was a kid. And that happens to a lot of us, which is really an exciting thing to experience. So this patch also raises something called anti-neoplasms, which I'm going to tell you what those are in just a second. You'll have to hang on to find out what anti-neoplasms are. This patch is super important, especially for someone like me. Like I said, I have that brain damage. And like I said, there's an alarming number of you who are running around you're not even aware that you have any kind of concussions in your history or brain damage, or what we clinically call a TBI. If you want to learn more about that, I would recommend you check out on Netflix. There's a film documentary that I did where I was the associate producer called Quiet Explosions, Healing the Brain. And we reveal a lot of things. It's an educational piece because that's what documentaries are. But this, again, balances your left and your right hemisphere of your brain to bring you now into homeostasis. But this increases the DHEA fountain of youth hormone. What's awesome about this is that, you know, we live in an environment right now where we get blue light toxicity from your computer, desktop, laptop, iPad, notepad, cell phone, doesn't matter what medium you're using to watch this broadcast, but that destroys your DHEA fountain of youth hormone. And blue light toxicity from those devices, as well as the LED lights in your home, in your place of work, in your kitchen, in your bathroom, your cars, your trains, your planes, your automobile. We're being bombarded with LED lights that destroy the DHEA fountain of youth hormone. It creates insulin resistance, and it actually dysregulates mitochondria inside your cells, which are what manufactures your energy. So this little patch does a whole lot of good for the price of a Starbucks coffee a day. Does that make sense? The other thing that this patch does, one of the reasons why a lot of people on the 21st day, you'll notice that people they come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, not only am I happier, and I haven't changed anything else other than being on the patches, I've noticed that my negative looping thoughts are gone, but people around me are starting to say, hey, what are you doing different? You seem so much, you've got more energy, but you seem so much happier. They're like, you can tell? And they're like, yeah, there's just something about you that's different. And so it's that when you're on the patch, before you're on the patch, you have, you know, PTSD, you have anxiety, you have negative looping thoughts, you've got stuff that's, you know, you're like in that hurry, hurry, hurry. You know, let's face it, over the last 4 years with everything that went on with the pandemic, the entire globe suffered a simultaneous PTSD because we didn't know what was going to happen next. And your adrenals release cortisol for you to be able to respond with a fight or flight response. So what the patches do, and this one in particular, it's going to reduce your cortisol levels and the C-reactive protein, because your cortisol is there to give you energy so that you could respond in that moment with a fight or flight response. But an elevated amount of cortisol, you know, people get adrenal fatigue, and that C-reactive protein in your blood does not feel good because we're not meant to be in that fight or flight response for days, weeks, months, years on end. But that's happened to a lot of people over the last 4 years. So now you're going to bring that into balance. You're going to have reduced cortisol, reduced C-reactive proteins. It's going to be brought into balance. Now, I had someone who, Lisa Pettit's husband, who he calls these patches his anti-pissy patches, because prior to being on the patches, he used to have a lot of negative looping thoughts. He was very OCD, compulsive, obsessive, weaving in and out of lanes when he would drive, you know, constantly turning on and off his like change turn signals. All of that minutia all disappeared in a week of his wearing the patches. And then it just continued to get better and better after that. He had a lot of other things. I'm going to have Lisa come on and see if I can get him to come share their story, because pretty extraordinary, all the things that happened for both of them. All right. Anti-neoplasms, what are they? So these are peptides that are found in the urine and the blood of healthy people. They might stimulate, at least the scientific research shows that they might stimulate the immune system. And these peptides might also kill certain cancer cells. Mind you, you were born with anti-neoplasms, okay? And so these peptides are also thought to believe to keep cancer cells from proliferating and growing. And in a clinical setting, they're used for various cancers, high cholesterol, brain swelling due to any kind of infection from any kind of source, like encephalitis, meningitis, HIV, AIDS, Parkinson's, and all sorts of other conditions. In a clinical setting, it's administered through something called IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, which is basically an IV. So luckily with these patches, though, these get activated. Whatever your original blueprint called for, they get turned back on. So you have this rapid repair and you also have this benefit. Okay, so we already talked about what the blue light, how it destroys your DHA. So we're not going to beat a dead horse on that. So before I go into the cost factor, let me answer any questions that you guys might have here. Brandon, Carol, Carolyn, and I think it was it Terracram that we said that was there with Carol? You guys can just unmute. I'm going to click unmute to each one of you so that if you have any questions, you can just unmute yourselves and then ask whatever question you might have.
You answered quite a bit of them.
Good. I'm glad that I answered quite a bit of them.
And your slides, you and your slides gave me all the answers.
Okay, good. So I'm glad that it looks like you was a good investment of your time to learn more about these stem cell activation badges.
Indeed.
Okay, well, fantastic. Is there any other, and it's funny because I have some people who are like, I have no other questions, or other people who say, you know what, I have a ton of questions. I just can't think of all of them right now. So I know I want to get started, and I know once I get started, I'll probably have a gazillion questions. I'm like, I'm always here to help and support you. That's what I'm here for. So I'm only a phone call, text message away. So.
That's how it's going to be for me. Once I get them all, I'll ask you when it comes into my head.
Yeah, that's fine. And so for me, I always tell people, please, as soon as you think of a question, don't wait, just text me, because you don't want that question to go unanswered. And you're like, what was that question? I had a question, but now I can't remember. As soon as you think of the question, just send me a text message, Telegram, direct text, doesn't matter. Send it to me because I want to be able to answer it for you. If you have that question, there's a reason why that arose. Could be that there's something inside your inner that's saying, oh, pay attention to this. That's why that question's coming up. So I find that whatever question you have, that's super important. And I want to make sure I answer it for you right away. Does that make sense?
Indeed.
Okay, awesome. Carol, and is that Tara?
Tara.
Yeah, Tara. Oh, you've got a scarf. That's why I didn't recognize you. How are you doing?
I'm hoping to get caught up today to be back on the patches, because I think I mentioned anyway, I kind of discontinued for a while because I just
Things happen.
meandered off. When you were talking about the Aeon, you mentioned three things. One, you're calling it the fountain of youth hormone. Is that DHEA?
DHEA. I'm glad that you're pointing that out, because some people confuse it with DHA, and those are two separate things. So this is DHEA. Exactly. That's the fountain of youth hormone.
Okay, so that's produced by the body.
Yes, that's
Is
natural.
that by the pituitary or the pineal?
By neither.
You know how it's produced?
You know what? I've never had anybody ask me that, but since you're asking me that, I'm going to have to look that up and see what organ produces DHEA. The pineal gland produces melatonin. And also dimethyltryptophan, vasopressin, benzodiazepine, and there's probably one other thing that right now, I think those are the primary things that the pineal gland produces. I'm not sure which organ produces DHEA, but I do know that blue light toxicity causes the destruction of the DHEA hormone. For those of us who are on the patches, we don't have to worry about it because we have protection from that, and we have the regeneration of our DHEA fountain of youth hormone. So, but I will look at.
You had mentioned three things. One was protecting the DHEA, and then there were two others which I'm afraid you were going too fast for me to keep my notes.
Oh, so let me pull this back up and let me see which. And this is probably, so what you talked about, it increases the DHEA fountain of youth hormone. This is
Right. And you mentioned 3 things at that point.
Well, you know what? This is being recorded and it's simulcasting to YouTube. So you'll have access to the link. I'll make sure that Carol gets it via email. And
Okay.
something to note about the nice thing about watching YouTube videos is you can watch it at normal speed, or if you have somebody who's talking really fast, you might want to put it at 0.75 or 0.5. Or if you want to hear it much faster so that you listen to it and, quicker, you can make it 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, or even twice as fast. So,
okay, but you don't recall off the top of your head what those other 2 things were?
I'm wondering I know I talked about, let me see. Well, we talked about the anti-neoplasms. We always talk about that at the end, but the DHEA fountain of youth hormone, the brain balancing, the cortisol levels.
It was before all that. It was while you mentioned 3 things with respect to the protecting the DHEA.
So the number one thing about DHEA is that blue light toxicity comes from the electronic screens of laptops, desktops, iPads, notepad, cell phones. And then you also get it from the LED lights as opposed to an incandescent bulb. So for example, like here in this room, you're going to notice that I have a little bit of a reddish coloring because my light bulbs above me, I have 4 of them are red incandescent bulbs and 2 of them are clear incandescent bulbs. But most, like in the United States, in California, for example, in California, you can't buy incandescent bulbs if I go to Home Depot, if I go to Lowe's, if I go to any hardware store, if I go to Target, I can't get incandescent bulbs. So I order mine through Amazon because I can't get them because they're illegal in the state of California. So the thing is, LED lights, although they conserve energy and they don't give off much heat, the flip side to that is they cause blue light toxicity, which that destroys in your body the fountain of youth hormone. And it also increases insulin resistance. And
that was one of them.
Yeah, so it destroys the fountain of youth hormone, DHEA. It increases insulin resistance, and it also dysregulates your mitochondria. It increases inflammation in the body.
What does it do to the mitochondria?
It basically breaks them. It dysregulates them. And your mitochondria are inside each cell. And so that's what produces energy. So of the 56 trillion cells you have, all 56 trillion have mitochondria, which that's what produces energy in the body in the form of something called ATP. When that's broken, then
those were the 3 things.
Okay.
Destroying DHEA, increasing insulin resistance, and dysregulating the mitochondria.
And it causes
I think it destroys cortisone.
But that was in the next.
Yeah, the cortisol level.
After that, reduces cortisol and the C-reactive proteins.
Yeah, the EON patch reduces cortisol and C-reactive protein, but
that was a separate topic.
Yeah,
those were the 3 things I was looking for.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Okay, we figured out what 3 you were looking for. Any other?
Right. Actually, I had a couple of others. Okay. I am interested. You mentioned a documentary that you had done, Quiet Explosions Healing the Brain.
Yes.
Because I was here another time when I just in the background on another Zoom call heard you talking about how people going under general anesthesia was basically having the impact of a TBI, which I didn't, and I've actually been under general anesthesia 3 times.
Yeah, so that's something that we discovered, which none of us knew until we did that documentary. And so I was in the principal photography dealing with Dr. Daniel Amen. And when Dr. Daniel Amen showed us, because we had Alan is the husband of the executive producer director. She's a Emmy award winning executive producer and director. And her husband had suffered a quadruple bypass 20 plus years before. And when Alan was 50, he had the quadruple bypass surgery. He was under for 8 hours during that procedure. And when he came out of it, that saved his life. However, he was disabled after that. He had very spotty memory. He had a lot of memory issues, and he had a lot of mental fog and a lot of these type of things, which they kept on attributing, rightfully so, to the anesthetics. And they said that it would wear off, which is obviously not true. But they never informed him that he suffered a traumatic brain injury, because whenever you undergo anesthetics, and I'm going to put here the name of the film, because you can look it up on Amazon, and you can also look it up. You can also view it on Netflix. It's called Quiet Explosions. The website is Quiet Explosions, and so it's called Quiet Explosions, Healing the Brain. And in there, one of the things that we revealed, and if you want, definitely watch the film, but there's like the mentor that I have in general anesthesiology that I follow is Dr. Anthony Cave. He's on YouTube. He's a Harvard and Stanford trained anesthesiologist, and he's also a functional medicine doctor, a PhD. And that's why I love to follow his information. But he'll reveal to you that when you undergo general anesthetics, that there are 4 things that happen, and all anesthesiologists will the first thing they do is they wipe out your memory, so amnesia. The second thing is it's hypnosis. The third thing is they turn off your pain receptors, and then the fourth thing is they paralyze you so that the surgeon doing the surgery on you can be accurate and very precise without you moving, flinching. There's no movement of the body. And
So what was the fourth thing again?
fourth one, it's paralysis. They paralyze you, and this is all chemically induced. So they have a certain concoction, if you will, of different drugs that they put into your body, like ketamine, and there's all sorts of different ones. But they use that to, number one, like I said, the first thing they do is they wipe out your memory. So they give you amnesia. 2, hypnosis. Number 3, analgesia, which is to turn off pain receptors. And then number 4 is to paralyze you. As soon as they do that, then what happens is that I got to keep track of the time here. We've got another minute or 2. So what happens is that in order for the anesthetics to take hold and for you to go into that deep sleep, which is basically like a chemically induced coma, they have to lower your vitals, lower your blood pressure, lower your pulse. And then when they lower your blood pressure, lower your pulse, for the anesthetics to take, they're depriving the brain of oxygen. And so for each hour that you deprive the brain of oxygen, you're going to have a bigger amount of brain damage than someone who only had 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes of being under. So that's a game changer. So a lot of people, I ask them, it's like when we first start them on the patches, okay, how many times have you undergone general anesthetics? And they'll say, oh, 4 times. Or I had one guy 55 times. He was a police officer who had a horrible accident, and his leg was severed and they had to reattach it. And there were 55 surgeries to put him back together again. I go, that means 55 brain injuries. That's 55 times that he experienced, 55 plus the accident, 56 times that he suffered brain damage. Those are 56 concussive events. So now conventional centralized medicine tells you that once you have brain damage, that you can't reverse any of that damage. But obviously that's not true, because if that were true, then I would not have any short-term memory. And I have excellent, I got to take this real quick because I have another patient. I'm doing a scan here in about a minute. Hey, Smita, can you give me about 1 or 2 minutes, and then I'm finishing this, and then we can do Sid's scan, their AO scan. Can you hear me? Smita? Hello?
They were on.
Okay. So yeah, she was here on a minute ago. I'm scanning her husband, Sid, in just a few minutes, which incidentally, for those of you who are on the patches already or who are about to get on the patches, I have about 7 or 8 spots left. We'll be doing, I'm doing complimentary for now for the people who I have on the patches already and the people who are just getting started or thinking about getting started. We can get you started with an AO scan, which is a full body scan. We'll talk about it another time. I need to wrap this up because I do need to start this scan.
Lillian, I apologize, but I need to ask you a few questions.
Yes, go ahead, Carol.
So shall I do it some other time? Because you need to go.
Yeah, give me just a quick second. I need to send Smita a quick message in Telegram. Just let her know I need a couple more minutes. Okay, go ahead, Carol. Go ahead.
Okay, number one, that order you placed for me for the bundle of 39 and 49, 6 months plus 3 free.
Yes.
They never got the order, and I never got anything in the mail. My brother got his order, and I called today, and they said the only thing they have on file for me is the order from January 15th for $350.
So, okay, after I'm done here, I have a person that I have to scan. After I'm done with their scan, then I'll go into your back office and I'll check because I processed yours before I entered
I
yours.
know. Mine was 2 days before my brother's.
Yeah, so that's bizarre. So I will have to double check. That's so weird. So, okay, I will take a look at that. Yeah, and we did the identical thing for him as we did for you. So, okay, I will look into that. So thank you for letting me know about that.
Well, because first we did me, and then I said, do my brother.
Yeah.
And you did. He got his order. So then I went, wait a minute, I don't have mine yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I finally called today.
Yeah. So you should have in your email, because as soon as we put that through, you always get a confirmation email.
I did get a confirmation email.
So forward that to me. And then, but I will look at that tonight. So thank you for bringing it to my attention.
All right. The other thing is for my meet and greet on Friday, it's still a go at 3 o'clock.
Yes, still a go at 3 o'clock.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, my friends and gems. So we're going to wrap this up. And I just wanted to let you guys know tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we'll be just sharing at X39 for 30 minutes. And then at 7 o'clock, I won't be doing one because it's Valentine's Day. So I won't be around going out with my friends, but we'll be back on here on Thursday. And if you or someone you know is interested in learning more, you know where to reach me. All right. So ciao for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.